Well, in chapter 5, verse 1, come now, you rich, weep, howl for your miseries that are coming upon you. So before you start saying, oh, God hates me, I'm rich, hold on. Read verse 2. Your riches are corrupted, and your garments are moth-eaten. Verse 3, your gold and silver are corroded, and their corrosions will be witnessed against you and will eat your flesh like fire. You have heaped up treasure in the last days. So as we look in context, he's inferring people who are rich by corruption. And as we go on, we're going to see it's in particular the poor that were oppressed and the powerless that were oppressed, and that they were taken advantage of by not being paid their due, that with their wages and so forth. And basically, James just says this is going on, and it's just hurtful, and all I can say is, hang in there, guys. The Lord's coming. And it is hard, I mean, to travel the world and see the disparity between the rich and the poor. And especially going like to Peru and some of these places where most of the population does not have a job at all. And, one of the pastors we support in Nairobi, his son got his master's degree, summa cum laude, from one of the leading universities in Kenya, and he came this close to getting a job at the UN. And if he did, they got to pay everybody in the world the same. He would have gotten paid like almost $200,000 a year in Nairobi. But even though he was the top of the class, even though he's a brilliant kid, he didn't get it. And for like 4 years, he couldn't get a job. There just aren't jobs to be had. And finally, there's a praise report. Hey, I got a job at the airport as a guy who just pulls the luggage off the thing, and, a luggage guy picks up luggage and goes back and forth and gets paid virtually not enough to support anybody or live on, And it's just heartbreaking when you see guys with just incredible ambition, desire, and there is just nothing there. And the people that got the money, they're just hiring people for just pennies. And I know when I go to Peru and there's the guy working, at the desk or working in the hotel, and it's like they get paid on salary, but they work 15 hours a day, 7 days a week. And like every other week, he gets a half a day off. And it's just like insane and just paid almost nothing. And it's like, if you don't want to do that, there's the whole rest of the country wants it. So it's just heartbreaking, And you realize, even if I had $100 billion and took it to just the smallest of these countries, it probably would never help. It wouldn't reach the right people. It would get stuck up in the people that are already billionaires' hands. And no matter what you did to try to get it into the hands of people, just corrupt, greedy individuals would just clog up the pipes. And it's heartbreaking. It really is heartbreaking. And it's not necessary. When you do the math and you realize how many dollars go through into salaries into people's hands worldwide and how much food there is in the world, and if it were dispersed evenly, nobody on the earth should be hungry. There's enough food made in a year to feed everybody and then some. If everybody was paid a healthy salary, there was one years ago, I can't remember what it was, but it was like there was enough money circulated that year that everybody on earth could have made like $1 million. It was just insane. It was just like, what's going on? But there's just people that just can't have enough. I remember a while back they did an interview with the guy who owns the Dallas Cowboys, and they just built that big giant stadium. And he came from poverty, and at that time he was worth $2 billion. And she's like, what's your biggest worry? He goes, becoming poor. He goes, almost every night I have this horrible nightmare that I lose everything and have no money left. And they were just like investing. They got going, you got $2 billion, you still feel that way? And he's like, yeah, you can lose it. And it's like living as a billionaire for all these years and then not having it would just be, it would be more than I could handle. And I'm just afraid of losing my money. You'd think, man, if I had 10 million in the bank, I'd say, all right, don't have to worry anymore. But nope. And I remember years ago seeing Oprah Winfrey. They were doing years ago, an interview in downtown Chicago in a condo. And they're like, wow, this is nice. It's like 1,500 square feet. It was really small. Nice. And at that time, she was making like $40 million a year, and she was worth hundreds of millions. And they're like, so this is your condo? She goes, no, I don't own it. She goes, I owned a house, and everybody sued me. The maid sued me, the pool guy sued me, the mailman tripped and sued me. Everybody sued me. So I don't own anything. I don't even own a car. I rent this out. It's like she just makes so much money. She can't own anything unless she just wants to end up in court all her life, signing, 1,400 pages a day so lawyers can go and try to, get people to get her off her back to quit suing. But she's literally sued all the time for just because they can. It's like, hey, I'd just rather give this guy $20,000 and let him go away than to argue with him. And she's like, so you have all this, the whole world's listening to you. You got all this fame, you got all this money. What's your thought? And she just said, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. It just wasn't. It's just not what I hoped it would be. When I was poor, she goes, that was hard. But now that I'm rich and famous, she goes, it's harder. And if I were to compare the two, but it's just a completely different hard. And so they actually have a special show now. I noticed on the Discovery Channel. I haven't watched it yet. But it's on people that have won the lottery and how their whole life's destroyed. After it's like there's enough for like having shows year-round on just that topic of the curse of winning the lottery has come upon people. So to think that money is somehow going to solve all your problems, the grass is never greener, guys. It will create problems. And I just think as a warning to us, just as a, let the word wash you in this topic, because we in America, of all people, believe this doctrine, if God's really for you, you got money. If you're really being blessed by the Christian God, you got money. And in essence, sometimes when people lose their money, they lose their Christian faith. Because how could the Christian God still be my God and taking care of me when I don't own a house anymore? I don't. But the fact is our country, this 400 million people, still make more money than anybody else in the world. It's like, it was weird one year I looked at the list. You can do this when you go home, what countries make, and you take China off now, take it out of the way, take Russia out of the way, and then add up the rest of the countries in the world, which come out to, like 3 billion people. And us 400,000 people make more than virtually 2/3 of the entire planet. Like their money combined still doesn't make as much money as our country did. And this is like 3 billion people. Ours is 400,000 people, or 400 million people, and we make more in our little country than all those countries combined. It's just astounding. It's embarrassing. So we really are the rich of the world, even though evidently even rich people don't feel rich. I'm really not rich. I'm only worth $2 billion. I'm worried sick about it because I need 4 to really feel secure. So I got it. Yeah, I only have 300 lawyers, and everybody knows you need 350 lawyers to just be, sleep good at night. I don't know, but just to let yourself get washed in the Word. Look in Matthew 19, verse 23 and 24. Jesus said to his disciples, "Assuredly I say to you that it's harder for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. And again I say to you, it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God." And again, it's called a hyperbole. Okay, so if you're in there going, "Oh, the needle, did you know it was a hole in the wall, and camels would get on their knees and squeeze through at night," and all that kind of stuff. Guys, it's just made up stuff. It might be true, it might not. It's irrelevant. The point is, with man, it's impossible. What the riches do, and Solomon talked about it in Proverbs, it creates a sense of independence from God. It's hard to have a full wallet and a full heart. It's hard to have lots of money and to pray going, "God, I want you, I need you, I desire you." It's just hard, almost impossible. And you just think about it. When you pray the hardest is when you're in need, right? Maybe not necessarily financially, but a lot of times that is the case. And all of a sudden, you are just super spiritual, man. You got this huge burden, this huge need, and all of a sudden, man, you're just reading the Bible and praying, and it does happen. You really do become a stronger Christian because of that giant need. And so if you live for decades without ever having need, you can imagine that would really cause the heart to not be warm and devotional and tender towards God. It's a real battle. And in 1 Timothy 6:10, "For the love of money is the root of," literally, "all evil." And some of the texts say kinds of evil, but most of the text is just evil, for which some have strayed from the faith in their greediness and pierced themselves through with the many sorrows. So there's a bunch there in 1 Timothy 6 on that. But either way, money it's like picking up razor blades, okay? And you think like, all right, look at all this money, and these things are just cutting you all over, and you'd be smart just to let it go. But yet we think we want to hold it to ourselves and get more and more. But it's a slippery slope, guys. And obviously it goes on to say in that passage, "Godliness with contentment is great gain." They asked Rockefeller years ago, "What's your goal?" And he said to make $1 million. And he thought it was going to take decades. He ended up doing it in just a little over a year. And they said, "What's your goal now?" He said to make 2. And he ended up doing that in a few months. And then he just said, yeah, just to keep making more. That was it. And you'll find that there is never enough. I used to have a wealthy guy I knew. And every time we'd go to do something or whatever, he would always pull out $1 and crinkle it up in my ear. He's sort of a goofy guy. And he's like, "Did you hear that? Did you hear that?" I'm like, what? He always say the same thing. There's a demon in every dollar saying, "More, more." And he was a goofy guy, but I got the point. And I'm a goofy guy, and I irritate people too, so it was no big deal. But anyway, being rich is not a cure-all. Matter of fact, it's a scary place. And in case you don't know, guys, we are the rich. We are the people that it's hard to have a heart of faith. And remember back in James chapter 2, verse 5, "Listen, my beloved brethren, has God not chosen the poor of this world to be rich in faith and heirs of the kingdom which he promised to those who love him?" So I would just say with you and money, just remember this. The Lord never takes away unless he has better to give. Okay? It's just, God is watching out over us. And in Luke chapter 12, after he says there, don't worry about what you're going to eat or drink or wear, or, don't worry about tomorrow. There's enough problems in a day. And then in Luke chapter 12, he adds this that's left out in Matthew. He says, O little lambs, do you not know it's the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom? It's like, guys, he wants to give us the whole earth. And he is. In the millennial reign, we're going to come back with Christ with a brand new body. And he's going to give the whole earth a facelift. For 1,000 years, think about this. In your brand new body, you can go sleep on a beach and surf, and just surf the best waves for like 100 years, and you got 900 years left. You can then spend another 100 years just climbing the Alps and going up to the highest points, hanging off cliffs, and you got 800 years left. You can spend 100 years scuba diving the best reefs on the planet Earth, and you got 700 years left. I mean, the earth is ours. We're not gaining anything now because we can't gain it now. Naked we came to this world, and naked we go out, okay? We can't, at this moment, we can't take it with us. But we're quickly, in a moment, in a twinkling of an eye, are going to be coming back with the Lord on horses. That's cool. Riding through with the Lord. We're going to land on Mount Olives. He's going to go down to the Megiddo Valley and finish the final battle out with all those warring against the Christ. And he's going to come back, and he's going to set up a rule. And we're going to rule and reign with him for 1,000-year millennial reign. And then Satan will be released to tempt those who have populated the earth in that millennial reign and those who made it from the tribulation period. He's going to have one last chance to sway mankind from Jesus unto Satan. And believe it or not, a multitude of people are going to go, man, I've been living this goody two-shoe life for 700 years with Jesus and hearing Bible studies, and I am sick of it. All right, come on, Lucifer, let's kill all these bunch of Christian goody two-shoes. There's a final battle. The Lord takes everyone to himself. He melts everything, the heavens and the earth, with a fervent heat. And then he creates a new heavens and a new earth and a new Jerusalem where we will be with him forever and ever and ever. So guys, the earth is yours. He's given it to you. You're an inheritor of all things. This particular earth you will for 1,000 years. And then he's going to give you a new earth for eternity. So we have no need to scrape a bunch of pieces of paper and gold and silver and, worried about getting kidnapped and losing this. And, the Dow went down, I'm so depressed. The Dow went up, I'm so happy. What's going to happen when the new president comes, What happens after every new president gets elected? It's going to be horrible for a while. They bring all the interest rates down before the election. Okay, so you keep the same guy in office, whoever it is, the Democrats. Oh man, things were good these last 2 years with whoever's in office. In this case, is the Democrats. And man, the interest rates have never been lower. This is the norm. And as soon as the guy gets elected by January, everything goes up, and all the fingers that are in all the holes in the boat that doesn't sink, all the guys pull their fingers out of the holes, and we start sinking again. So I hate to be depressing, but I've been on this roller coaster for, almost 56 years. So I know that if you're going to worry about tomorrow, there's plenty to worry about. Start worrying right now, because there's lots to worry about. Or you can just not worry about it and say, with food and clothing, with these I shall be content. And what if we lose everything? What if the economy really collapses this time? We're going to go get a glass of iced tea. We're going to all go live in the park and sit against a tree and all the kids are going to play together and have the time of their life. And that extended vacation you've been saying you're going to have, you're having it now. And remember that diet you wanted to be on and really lose weight and feel good? You're going to be on that diet now. So we're all going to lose weight. We're all going to really have a lot of time to spend together. The kids are going to remember it as the happiest time on earth. And God may have to have birds bring us food and drop it on us, and we'll eat it. And maybe He'll bring some manna out of heaven. Or maybe best, we'll all die of starvation and go to be with the Lord. Now that would really be bad, wouldn't it? If we all had to go be with Jesus. Well, you understand, guys? If your hope is in God and your trust is in God, there is nothing to worry about. But if your trust is in 90% God and 10% America, you're gonna have an ulcer, guys. But am I gonna get retirement? Am I gonna get a house? God didn't promise you that. He promised you today that you wouldn't run around naked. I don't see anybody naked here right now. And that we wouldn't starve to death today. Okay? And we're not starving to death. So that's it. That's all He promised. He did not promise shoes. He didn't promise hair cream. He didn't promise cars and college degrees and vacation plan. He didn't promise any of that. We just live in America and we think the whole world is like living in this. Understand, 90% of the world never had a vacation. They never owned a car. That they don't make enough in 10 years to pay for even like the crappiest car. Okay, that's the case. We're just so rich, we don't understand what the rest of the world's going on. And when we do try to understand it, it's more than we can process. It's more than we can handle. It's just we can't handle it. And this is in essence what James is saying here. It's like he's going to just say, hey, the Lord's coming. I'm not asking you to solve it. I'm not asking you to figure it out. I'm not asking you to feel bad about it or pray about it. I'm just saying that Jesus said the poor you'll always have with you. The needs are always going to be there. God makes the rich. God makes the poor. Everything in between. God, let me have the amount of money I can have in my wallet and have a full heart. I don't want one penny more than I can handle and my heart start to grow cold. My heart starts to grow cold, get rid of it. Start shoveling out, man. Okay, my heart's warm again. Okay, that's how much I can handle. That's where we need to be. In Matthew chapter 5, verse 3, blessed are the poor in spirit, for there is the kingdom of heaven. Now, we just saw in James 2:5 that a poorness of spirit is indeed connected with poorness. And in Luke chapter 6, verse 20, he says that. Then he lifted up his eyes towards his disciples and said, blessed are you poor, for yours is the kingdom of God. So in essence, in God's mindset, a poverty of spirit being rich in faith is most likely, not probably always, but most likely tied to financial poverty. And so there's no, when we get to heaven, we're not going to look back and go, Lord, I'm so glad I'm in heaven now in this new body and I'm walking on these streets of gold. But back when I was 13, man, I really wanted those tennis shoes. And I'm still just really bitter about it, I really wanted that really special kind of marble in the kitchen when I did the remodel. And, I'm just a little still upset about that, It's going to be ridiculous, isn't it? When we get to heaven and look back at this second of time, this vapor of time we've lived on earth, and gold, one of the best commodities, is asphalt in heaven. Somebody's going to see you cruising around with a gold necklace and go, get that nasty asphalt off your neck. Throw that on the ground. Don't pick up that stuff. Okay, it's silliness. The De Beer family back in the 20s to this day did the best worldwide campaign connecting diamonds with marriage, where you weren't really married unless you had a diamond. In the 20s, that connected, and they became one of the wealthiest families on earth. But before the 1920s, before they did that with diamonds, people didn't have diamonds. They had rubies or whatever they could afford. Nobody felt bad if they just had just a plain, silver wedding ring. Nobody felt bad about it. But then they did it in such a way like, dude, if you don't have a diamond, you're really failing your bride-to-be. And then it's like, I know you gave her a diamond, but that diamond's sort of small. Well, I know you gave her a big diamond, but it's not very clear. Until all of a sudden, it's like, my gosh, if I hadn't spent $10,000 on a diamond ring, I'm just like, I'm not even worthy to ask somebody to marry me. And it's just them. And if you think about me, diamonds, you can make plastic look like diamonds. Okay, it's not real, guys. I like green rather than clear. I like red rather than clear. Right? I mean, get a little $50 ruby, and it has flavor, it has color. Clear is no color. And I understand there's a beauty to diamonds, but nobody says it's made up by man that diamonds are valuable. This diamond's worth this much. Do you know how many thousands of years people picked up diamonds and thought, oh crap, it's one of those little clear rocks, throw it back on the ground? I mean, probably thousands of years, people didn't even think whoa, I'm going to get 1,000 people here, even though 500 of them die inside this hole, at least I'll get a handful of these things. They didn't think that until somebody created this thought that it's valuable and it's worth it, and we all need one, and you can't get married without one. Just stop this. Get off the little hamster wheel. Just get off it. It's not taking you anywhere. You don't need a diamond. You don't need gold. You don't need silver. You don't need a certain amount of money, a certain amount of things. You don't need a car that's this new or has that kind of logo on it. Your kids don't need a pair of jeans that cost $200 rather than $9.99. Don't let the world suck you into this vacuum telling you that you've got to live at this level, and then all of a sudden people are in their 50s going, man, I just burned through all this money to, and then you're looking back at this pair of jeans you bought for your kids for $150, and they're laughing at them going, those are the stupidest looking jeans. Why'd you let me buy those, Mom? And you're just like, oh my goodness. You have no idea. It was like hell for 2 weeks until I bought those jeans for you. And now you're making fun of me that I bought them for you. Don't play the games, guys. Get out of that. And so in Matthew chapter 6, Jesus says, do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, where neither moth or rust destroy, where thieves break in and steal, but lay up for yourselves treasure in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, or thieves do not break in and steal. For where treasure is, there your heart will be also. Listen to that. Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. The lamp of the body is the eye. If therefore your eye is good, your whole body is full of light. If your eye is bad, your whole body is full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in you is darkness, how great is that darkness? No one can serve two masters. He'll hate the one and love the other, or else he'll be loyal to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. That, if you look at it, verse 19 to 21 is clearly talking about money, riches. And then if you look at verse 24, again, it's clearly talking about money. You love the one, hate the other, cling to the one, despise the other. And so you say verse 22 and 23, what does the light of the eye, or the eye being dark, what does that have to do with money? Guys, it's a Jewish expression, and I'm sorry I didn't get these verses in there, but write them down. Look them up later. Deuteronomy chapter 15, verse 9, it uses that term. I do not know why, but in the Jewish mindset, the eye being dark, or the eye being cloudy, unclear, is a greedy person. Okay? I know when I've taught English to people, they're like, how do you drive somebody crazy? And how did people go crazy before cars came around? You know, how do you like drive somebody? I'm driving you and you go, I got to take you in the loony bin. It's like, why do we drive people crazy? I have no idea. It's just an expression. In the Jewish mind, in Deuteronomy 15:9, it says, beware lest there be a wicked thought in your heart, saying the 7th year of the year of release is at hand, and your eye be evil, or bad, or unclear. Your eye is bad, evil, unclear against your poor brother, and you give him nothing, and he cry out to the Lord against you and become sin. Also, Proverbs 22:9. He who has a generous eye, and again, clear eye, a good eye, it's his eye, will be blessed, for he gives bread to the poor. Proverbs 28:22, a man with an evil eye hastens after riches and does not consider the poverty will come upon him. So with that in mind, looking back at Matthew 6, the lamp of the body is the eye. So what's really going on in our heart? We cannot. The Proverbs says, every man, Proverbs 16 says, every man thinks he's right in his own eyes. It's just, we can't think anything different. But the Lord weighs the hearts. Another place, the Lord weighs the spirits. So we cannot really honestly know what's going on in our heart. So we need a thermostat. You know, we need to be able to take our temperature of our heart and say, what's our heart? How do we do that? He says right here, if the eye is good, then the whole body is full of light. But if the eye is bad, evil, unclear, your whole body is full of darkness. Therefore, the light that is in you is darkness. How great's that darkness? In other words, if, again, the love of money, or the desire for money, or the greed for money is the root of all evil. So this heart that says, I need more, I want more, I've got this, and I'm so content, I feel so secure, I feel so happy because I have these things. Where your treasure is, your heart's going to be also. So if you're a giving person, you're giving of your tithes, your offerings, God puts on your heart to help out this orphanage or this person or whatever it might be. Every time that's happening, whether it's just math, just I'm giving my tithe, I'm giving my offering, and I don't feel anything, but I'm just being honoring God with the first, the best, the top, the first. It's storing up treasure in heaven. And you know what you find? You don't have to try to do it. It's just where your treasure is, your heart's going to be there. And if you've been for years tithing, giving offerings, supporting the widows and orphans in need, you're gonna find that, man, all this in time, money has gone through my fingers, and I just have this heart for God, and I'm so thankful I have this heart for God. And I don't know why I have such a heart for God. I have such a longing to be with Jesus and go to heaven. And, you know, I talk to other Christians, and I think that there's like a deeper longing in my heart for God than a lot of people. I think there's a longing in my heart to be with Jesus and be in heaven than a lot of people I know. And I don't know why. You can't change it, manipulate it, deceive, be a hypocrite with it. It's just simple. Where your treasure is, your heart is going to be also. Back when I was in college, before I got married, I didn't have enough money to help out and do the wedding and all of that. And a friend of Cheryl said, look, he sold stocks, and Never bought or sold a stock since that day back in college 35 years ago. But it was for a urinology machine, not very romantic, but it was a machine that takes urine and tells you what's in the urine, okay? And this guy said, look, I guarantee you it's a penny stock. It's going to go up. You're not going to wait till it's huge. You're just going to double your money, get out. Then you got enough money to go on, get married and go on your honeymoon. And so, but when I tell you to sell it, sell it. And so I did this. And it was just a very weird feeling because I worked so hard for my money. It was only like $1,000, but at that time, that was like $1 billion to me. And man, I bugged that guy. It's like, dude, how's it going with the urinology machine that was getting ready to get approved or not approved by the FDA? And it was so weird that I cared about a urology machine. But the fact was, I couldn't not think about it. Wake up in the morning, wonder how that urology machine's going. Wonder what those scientists are doing, I could not do it. I wasn't worried about it or anything, but I just had an interest in it. And then finally, one day, I was very surprised. He's like, sell it. And it went up from, I bought it like $1. It went up to like $8. And he said, look, if it gets approved next week, that thing could be worth like $80 a share. It was like huge. And so I'm like, okay. And the time I sold it and everything, I about doubled my money. But he hung on to it with his. He actually put a bunch more in. And sure enough, they didn't approve it. And it just went down to zero, basically. But he was thinking, man, I could get rich. But I really thought a lot about that. I never bought a stock since that day. But wherever your money is, wherever your treasure is, no matter what that is, you can't help but your body, your mind, your energy, your thoughts, obsession goes in that direction. But if perchance you are this person that doesn't have a right relationship with money, there's no way anything else can be right in your life with God. If your eye in verse 23 is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. That's why Jesus said to the rich young ruler, sell everything you have, give to the poor, come follow me. And he went away sad. Now we know that wouldn't have fixed anything. Because later in 1 Corinthians 13, it says, even if you were to give all your goods to the poor and come follow Jesus, it would mean nothing if you didn't have love. So he really wasn't trying to say if the guy does that, he's going to be right with God forever. He was simply trying to show the guy, step one is, if your heart is set on riches, nothing else. He's like, what's lacking? Something's lacking. And Jesus says, your whole body's full of darkness. And until that root is ripped out, you're not going to be able to move forward with Christ. And so, like my friend said, every dollar, there's two demons saying more and more. It's always trying to get in there and snake around. And he says it comes down to it. You have two masters. You can't have two masters. Excuse me. I've seen it where we come through the Bible and we talk about tithing, for example. And you see people out there who give their tithes freely. And they're like, oh man, it's good to hear a good sermon on this, Praise the Lord. Yeah, treasures in heaven. They're happy as can be. And you have other people out there going, oh, here it is. I haven't been to church in 5 weeks, and sure enough, there's the pastor again, trying to get my money. Oh, I'll give a little bit, but I'm not going to give 10%. That's ridiculous. What's that church need that money for anyway? And they start getting angry at God for asking for anything, especially 10% and an offering above that. And it's like you're going to love the one and hate the other, cling to the one, despise the other. God's going to irritate you. The Bible's going to irritate you. You're going to eventually get bitter at anybody trying to take your money. And that bitterness is going to sink you. Or you just let it go. can't believe they raised the taxes. You know, God provides for me. Give unto Caesar that which is Caesar's. I don't care. I can't worry about that. There's never been a government that's not corrupt and doesn't want more than they should get. I'm not going to worry about that. Heaven's coming. I'm not going to. Here it is. Take that stupid tax money. You know, give unto whatever it is. Man, everybody has, it's free, man. It's just free to be able to store up treasure in heaven, not even trying, your heart set on the things of above, where Christ is seated, and God's your master. The Lord's you're the one calling the shots, and you're clear, your eyes clear, and your whole body's full of light. And you know what? God makes the rich, God makes the poor. Paul said, I've been rich, I've been poor. At this very moment, I'm having ate. Angels look at us and laugh. I don't care. I rejoice in my poverty. I rejoice in my needs. I rejoice in my infirmities. When I am weak, then I am strong. So if you're here tonight, God knows. He's not taken away from you. He has not blessed you. If God really loved me, I'd be making $2 more an hour. And you know what? If that were the best for you, you would be. Just cast all your cares upon God. Hey, God, I have a desire to have more money because I'd like to buy a newer car. Just cast that upon the Lord. But if that car becomes your treasure, it's going to take you away from the most important thing. And God knows that. But if you can have that piece of metal and still be right with God, then He wants to bless you. He's your Father. He loves you. He wants to open up the windows of heaven and pour blessing more than you can contain. Looking again at those first 3 verses. So you who are rich, you think that you're laughing and happy, but you should be howling and miserable because calamity is coming upon you. Jesus is coming again. There's judgment. And these riches are corrupting. They're corroding. Now you say, well, there's an error in the Bible. Gold and silver don't corrode. Look at it. It's not talking about the gold and silver corroding. It's talking about your flesh. Your soul is corroding. The money is corroding you. It's keeping you from being free. I remember when I was a kid, I saw this Disney show where this couple had worked, and they finally hit the gold, and they had this gold tied around them, around their waist, and the boat ended up hitting a rock, and they all got thrown into the ocean, and their gold was sinking them. And the one young man, the teenage kid, was not going to let that gold go, and his dad was under there trying to rip it off him, and he's like, no, and tying it tighter. And then another friend comes over trying to rip it, and they finally ripped the gold off him, and it sunk to the bottom of the ocean. And they all came up, and they were alive and made it to shore with nothing. And that kid was just so mad, going, why did you do that? But he couldn't see. It was just in his mind, I can have the gold and live. And of course, logically, nobody can swim that good. But this is what he's saying. You guys think that things are good, but this stuff is sinking you. And it's actually the way you're living in that greediness of heart is actually just bringing greater judgment to you. The money is not bringing you any wealth whatsoever, especially eternity. And in verse 4, indeed, the wages of the laborers mowed your fields, which you kept back, or harvested, which you kept back by fraud. You cry out, and the cries of the reapers have reached the ears of the Lord of the Sabbath. Talks about that in Leviticus 19, that you're not to hold back the wages, not to sleep on them, I'll pay you tomorrow. No. They were to be paid that day, pay them that day. In James chapter 5, verse 5, you have lived on the earth in pleasure and luxury. You've fatted your hearts as in the day of slaughter. So in verse 3, he says, this is going to be a witness against you. It's going to heap up treasure against you to the last days. And now in verse 5, it says, you fattened your hearts as in the day of slaughter. So your wealth is actually you're wealthy and you're eating all this food and you're big and fat and you're thinking like, wow, I'm eating the best of the best and I'm sitting in the best of the chair. And God is saying, it's exactly what you would do with a cow or a pig. Of course, they're Jewish, not the pig. But with the cow, this thing's getting fat and eating, going, man, I'm the greatest thing around here. And they're like, yeah, now that you're big and plump, we're going to kill you and eat you. And he's saying, you guys are getting all big and fat on your wealth, going, wow, look at how great I am. And he's just saying, you're just nice and plump for the day of judgment. It's not a benefit to you. Talking about the last days, the Bible says it would be as Sodom and Gomorrah. And of course, we know as Sodom and Gomorrah of their moral sin. But the real issue of the sins of Sodom, the last manifestation was a society permeated with homosexuality. Before that, it tells us in Ezekiel 16, verse 48 to 50, and I'm just going to skip ahead because it says that Israel was worse than Sodom, but then it describes Sodom in verse 49. It says that number one, it had pride. The second thing that started sinking that society was fullness of food. Number three is the abundance of idleness. They had so much wealth they could hire servants. They themselves didn't have to work that much. And neither did they strengthen the hand of the poor and needy. The next thing is they were haughty. And then finally, that which we know about, they committed abominable things before the Lord. And it's interesting because a lot of people say, oh, the last days are going to be, all kinds of hardship and people are going to be poor and all. No. Go back and look at what Jesus said. It said they're going to be like Sodom and Gomorrah. They were a wealthy society. It says they were giving and taking in marriage. All kinds of wedding feasts going on and stuff. I think parts of the world, like always, are going to be poor and there's going to be wars and rumors of wars. But I think Satan's no dummy. He knows that if I can take people to hell by letting them be rich, and I don't even have to hardly work on them because their own heart is going to take them down to judgment just by letting them be wealthy, I think the best, these guys over here, I got to try to deceive them and get them to hate each other and fight and kill each other. But these other people over here, I'm just going to just make them richer. And I don't even have to think about them. They're going to take themselves to hell with their own money. And I think we got to stop here and just take a moment and realize that this society that became like Sodom and Gomorrah, it started with this prideful heart, and their pride was right. They became wealthy and prosperous, and it just sort of fed on itself until eventually, with all this idle time, with all this success, with all this money, with all this pride, it caused them to be able to have idleness of time to just think up all kinds of perversions sexually. And I can tell you, traveling the world, poor people aren't sitting around trying to figure out what their gender is, okay? The poor people of the world aren't up in the Andes Mountains going, should we have a third bathroom for those who feel like they're, that's not happening. You've got to be wealthy and have a lot of idleness and to even think this kind of stuff up. It's coming out of the pride of a heart. So you have condemned, you have murdered the just. He does not resist you. So right now, you're just, it's like, I don't think God's against us. I don't think anything, I think everything's just flowing. We're wealthy. Yeah, we're a little prideful, but we have a reason because we're so successful. And look at God can't be against us. Everything's just so prosperous and going so well. And it's just, yeah, I probably should really think if my heart's really with God or not, but it's just things are cruising right along, so I don't need to have to think too deeply. But yet the believers are looking at this going, this is just craziness. These people have no real heart for God, but yet they're running the church. These people don't seem to even be walking in holiness or righteousness with God. But yet they have these incredible prayers and they're teaching the Bible studies. I'm just so confused. Because they seem like their life is so spiritual and right because they got money and prosperous and educations. And it's just, I'm trying to see, because I look at Jesus and how he wants us to be, and I don't know what to think. In Psalm 73, and we're going to end here tonight, it says, in this whole psalm, Psalm 73, if you turn there, we're going to finish reading this psalm. There's 28 verses in it, and we're going to finish here this evening. And the psalmist is looking at the society very much the way James was looking at the society, and telling us that this would be the society we would be looking at in the last days. And he says here in Psalm 73, verse 1, "Truly God is good to Israel, to such as are pure in heart. But as for me, my feet had almost stumbled. My steps had nearly slipped. For I was envious of the boastful," pride, "when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. For there are no pangs in their death, but their strength is firm. They are not in trouble as other men, nor are they plagued like other men. Therefore pride serves as their necklace. Violence covers them like a garment. Their eyes bulge with abundance. They have more than heart could wish. They scoff. They speak wickedly concerning oppression. They speak loftily. They set their mouth against the heavens, and their tongue walks through the earth. Therefore their people return here, and waters of a full cup are drained by them." Verse 11, they say, "How does God know? And is there knowledge in the Most High?" They're all philosophers. They're all theologians. They're all having these in-depth discussions about the relevance of God. "Behold, these are the ungodly who are always at ease. They increase in their riches. Surely I have cleansed my heart in vain. I've washed my hands in innocence, for all day long I have been plagued and chastened every morning. If I had said, I will speak thus, if I said I'd talk pridefully like they are, behold, I would have been untrue to the generations of your children." So if I had agree with these rich people and act like them, it wouldn't be a true walk with God. In verse 16, "When I thought how to understand this, it was too painful for me." I would just say this passage in James tonight, it's not one of these studies we're going to be walking out of going, "Boy, was that encouraging? Boy, that was a really great study tonight." I don't think we're all going to be going just like this. That was just painful. It's true. We need the truth. The truth sets us free. But this knowledge is painful. And in verse 17, "Until I went into the sanctuary of God." So I just went into the presence of God and to begin to worship. "Then I understood their end. Surely you set them in a slippery place. You cast them down to destruction. Oh, how they brought to desolation, as in a moment they are utterly consumed with terrors, as a dream when one awakes. So Lord, you awake, you shall despise their image. Thus my heart was grieved, and I was vexed in my mind. I was so foolish, I was so ignorant, I was like the beast before you. Nevertheless, I am continually with you. You hold me in my right hand. You will guide me with your counsel, and afterwards receive me to glory. Whom have I in heaven but you? Is there none upon this earth that I desire besides you?" Listen to verse 25 again, one of the most precious psalms in the Bible. "Whom have I in heaven but you? Is there none, and there is none upon this earth I desire besides you? My flesh and my heart fell, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. For indeed those who are far from you shall perish. You have destroyed all those who desert you for harlotry. But it is good for me to draw near to God. I have put my trust in the Lord God, that I may declare all your works." So when I observed things on earth, it just did not seem to me to be paying off to follow God, to obey God, to serve God, to walk right with God. And I see these guys that are walking, they're good churchmen. They're good church members. They're good guys to have on their board. They make the church look good. They're all professionals and healthy and wealthy and wise, but they're not following God. They're just serving God at this low ebb at best. They're not walking with God really at all. They show up 4 times a year for Christmas and Easter and whatever. And I just almost like, why am I knocking myself out reading the Bible every day and tithing and going to church and witnessing and saying no to my flesh and taking up this cross and following Jesus, and when the people that aren't doing any of that seem to be doing much better than me. And he goes, I almost just like, forget it. I'm not going to knock myself out anymore following and obeying God. I'm just going to start cruising too. And then I went into the sanctuary of God and I realized life's eternal. Life's eternal. This little tiny section of life that I live in this flesh is not everything. Those who have lived righteously are going to be at the right hand of God, receiving pleasure forevermore. And those who have lived wickedly or according to their own dictates of their own heart, or they walked in a way that seemed right to them, they're going to suffer the consequences of that for eternity. So I am wealthy. I may not be wealthy in this moment of time, in this dispensation of time of the way we're looking at earth before the rapture. But I am wealthy because I'm in God and I'm His, and all that He has is mine. I am an inheritor along with Jesus. I inherit all things. And man, I almost stumbled. I almost fell. It was such a slippery slope until I came to the sanctuary of God. That's what we've done tonight. We've come to get some glasses on here. We've come to clean things up and refocus and just say, guys, we are in the last days, man. Wars and rumors of wars. The Bible says everywhere you look, the 2 places on earth that are going to be amplified is Israel becoming a nation again. And guys, it seems like 1948 was a million years ago to some of you guys, but that wasn't very long ago, okay? My folks who live with us were born in the 30s, okay? When they were teenagers, it was Israel just became a nation, okay? And the other point is Babylon, which is Nasiriyah, Iraq. The whole world would be focused on that. What did Jesus say as Jonah? Jonah wanted the Ninevites, Assyrians, to die. Where is that? Mosul, Iraq. They were a bunch of ISIS people. And he's like, I want you to go and preach to ISIS. They'll kill me. They're evil. They got bodies hanging everywhere. They're raping all the women. Boy, some things don't change, do they? And Jonah's like, no way, I'm getting on a boat going the other way. And God's, no, you're not. And we're going to go on in James to find out, guys, we got to make it to the end. And one of the things making it to the end is there's going to be a new outpouring of God's Spirit, and salvation's going to come. And that's going to come to the Assyrians as well. Amen?